Hey, it's Lowry Smith of the Commander Smiths here with searching for the spotlight. Marvin, Murderous Mimic. Uh, we recorded on Friday. It's going to be a double episode, so regular audio is going to be releasing on Wednesday on all your preferred platforms. If you just watch us on YouTube, go check out Friday's episode. It's a haul. It's about 3 hours. It's us drinking. It's talking about the year, but it was a good time. So if you care to watch that, that's great. If that's what you're here for the podcast, I'd suggest go watching that. But just so that we are doing something on Monday and not letting people down, here's searching for the spotlight. I kind of threw this together. Didn't have quite as much time as I'm normally used to, so I think I'm missing some cards, but I got enough of them too. I got like 150 cards here. So, um, we'll go through this. We'll cut it down. I'll probably go through it twice, hour and a half, somewhere in there, and then we'll call it a night. Uh, our Vikings lost. We're sad, and then we're going to be playing the game. Vikings are playing next Monday night, so we will be recording and doing our thing next Tuesday. If you're so inclined to join us then as well. Um, Other than that, let's get to yeah, Commander Smiths is a podcast. Surprise. We generally, we come out every week for the most part. Pretty on top of things when it comes to that. I've been going for about 7 years, coming up here in February. Um, so share, like, subscribe. That would be plenty helpful. We have a Patreon if you want to join us. We hand out proxies to people there that are at different levels. We also have a Discord you can join. Lots of fun over there. Mostly me just posting memes and lots of gifs and stuff like that. Um, yeah, we do gameplay, decks, new cards, stuff like that. All right, moving on. All right, building Marvin, Murderous Mimic. 2 mana, 2/2. It is a toy. It has all activated abilities of creatures you control that don't have the same name as this creature. Um, so it's going to be a creature heavy deck. It's going to have a lot of activated abilities, which would, and then, first time I read it, I thought it was in the graveyard. I was like, I like graveyard strategies. That's going to be sweet. It's very much like Marsil, which I built years ago at this point. But they have to be in play, um, which I'd say is harder. Not arguably, it is. But Marsil is probably not as powerful as this, also. So I'm glad that it's just colorless, really limits you on your options. Um, so what is it? Let's see here. Let's kind of go through. Basically, what I'm going to do is go through my choices at this point, cut as we're going. Like I said, there's like 153 cards right here. I'm going to try and at least get it down below 100 here in the next hour and a half. We'll go through all the cards. We'll talk about why they're potentially there, and then we'll move on from there. We'll work this way. These are the combined cards. We have the Immortal Sun. I have it. This is the mana and draw section. So they're kind of doing both. They're kind of the more I like them. So let's do that. Planeswalker loyalty abilities are countered or can't be activated. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. Spells you cast cost one less, and creatures you control get +1/+1. So, the drawing an extra card, costing one less. That's that part. That's why it's in this pile. But creatures getting +1/+1 is pretty solid as well. We do have one planeswalker in here, but really it's to reduce the cost of spells, colorless spells. Ugin. We'll get to that. So I'm not really worried about that. So this card just kind of does a little bit of a lot of things and can work really well in this deck. Inscribed Tablet artifact, pay one, tap it, sack it, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, put a land from among them into your hand and the rest on the bottom. If you didn't put a card into your hand this way, you get to draw a card. So you can kind of choose either getting a land into your hand or drawing a card. I don't believe you have to. No, you have to put a land card from among them. So if there is no land, you get to draw a card. Either way, it's one or the other. Pip-Boy 3000 equipment. Whenever it attacks, choose one. Draw a card, then discard a card, or put a 1/1 counter on that creature, or untap up to 2 target lands. All of this is awesome. I hope this one should stay in the deck, but it is a 1/1 counter themed, heavily, should be at least in this bit, unless I get real lazy and I'm like, cut them all. But otherwise, untapping lands, drawing and discarding, all the good stuff. Network Terminal taps to add one mana of any color, or pay one, tap it, tap another untapped artifact you control, draw a card, then discard a card. So it's mana and card selection if we're so looking at that. Sort of Forge and Frontier, +2/+2, pro red and green. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top two cards. You can play an extra land this turn, and you can cast. You may cast those cards this turn. You may play an additional land this turn. All right. So, and then Collector's Vault. 2 mana, tap, draw a card, then discard a card and create a treasure token. So a looting and a treasure. Kind of like everything on this, there is a little bit of getting cards back from the graveyard. So looting is not a negative thing in this deck. So it's not really equipment heavy, but there are definitely equipment, and it's a colorless deck. Has to be colorless. So um that's where we're at. I mean, network terminal's probably going to mostly be mana, but I do like it for that looting aspect, and I do have probably enough untapping to have both of them be fairly effective. The Immortal Sun, the only thing that gets me is just that mana cost up there, and we got a bunch of fatties in here. Um, so I think that's what we want to work with a little bit. So if I'm having to cut anything, let's cut the Immortal Sun. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are like, "What? Why?" And that's just it is what it is. I should leave this out a little bit so people can read it. Let's go look at our card draw or card selection for the turn for the deck. Kozilek the Great Distortion. When you cast it, you get if you have fewer than 7 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference, and then you can discard a card with converted mana cost X, counter target spell with converted mana cost X. This deck this card has been almost making it into a lot of decks recently. I really hope that it works here. But if you start running out of cards, you just drop it, draw, 4 or 5 cards, and then you can discard cards for funsies. So it's been close in a bunch. I might want to reconsider putting it in some others. Like Niv Mizzet Perun, you have a ton of cards in your hand, and so you can just discard, and it's a great card in that regard. But I like it a lot. Endbringer's there for that draw card. It untaps during each other player's turn. You can tap to deal damage to target creature or player, or a target creature can't attack or block or draw a card. So I mean, this is probably here just because it's the untapping part. It is colorless. It is going to be some draw and maybe just some damage, some Timon. The other thing that I'm potentially haven't added in, but I want to because they're +1/+1 counter theme, and there's definitely some damage things going on, is getting some death touch in the deck. So, Basilisk Collar, Gorgon Flail, Gorgon Head, but they are not in this right now. So I think since they are not in the deck, maybe we just cut Endbringer and make it easy in that regard. Kodotha, Forge Master, 5 mana, 3/5. Sacrifice 3 artifacts after you tap it. Search your library for an artifact card and put it into the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. I have a sacking theme that kind of happens. That's why there's a bit of graveyard stuff going on. It might be too much in the deck. I might just should be happy with the +1/+1 theme and colorless. Um, but let's push forward a little bit here. But it's a thought at least. Farsight Mask. Whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you, or if it's untapped, you may draw a card. So each time, if like 5 little 1/1s hit you, you get to draw 5 cards, and that's all time, every time. So not a bad card for drawing a bunch. Mind's Eye. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you can pay 1 and draw a card with them. And this is a little bit of proxies that Adam has worked on in the past. This is this is Bran from Game of Thrones, and Adam does make proxies. Like I said, we hand those out to patrons, so it's kind of a fun little deal. Canaptic Spider. Whenever whenever another non-token artifact, creature, or vehicle enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. It's a 4/4 flyer. So it's just drawing more cards. Mystic Forge, probably the best card in the deck, I'm going to guess. But look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast artifact spells and colorless spells from the top of your deck. Pay 1 life, tap it, sack, or exile the top card of your deck. So probably going to gain a lot of cards. The One Ring, there's untapping in this deck. You can sacrifice it in this deck so far, but everybody knows what it is. We don't have to talk about it. Tawashi Guide Bot, 4 mana, 2/1. When it ETBs, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Could be it or something else. Pay 4, tap it, draw a card. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each modified creature you control. It will be at least 1 as long as whatever this is doing. So, but should draw you a bunch of cards. Trading Post, it's here for all of them are 1 and tap and whatever effect. So discard a card to gain 4 life, or pay 1 life to get an 0/1 goat, or sacrifice a creature, return target artifact card from your yard to your hand, or sacrifice an artifact to draw a card. Doing a lot of stuff. Some of it's good. Some, I like these last two. The top two are kind of so-so, but sack outlets aren't bad. Little cantrips in here. Scrabbling Claws, 1 to come out, 1 to sack and draw a card. Exile 1 card from the graveyard, and it can tap to remove a card from a card in the graveyard. Vexing Bauble, freshly, I don't know about freshly, but banned in Vintage. That's how good it is. But 1 mana artifact. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter it, and then he can pay 1, tap, sack, and draw a card. Just little cheap cantrips that might do something for you. Soul Guide Lantern. When it ETBs, exile target card in the graveyard. You can tap, sack it, exile each opponent's graveyard, or pay 1, tap, sack, draw a card. Then you got Conjurer's Bauble, 1 to come out, artifact, tap, sack, put up to 1 target card from your yard on the bottom of your library. It's up to, so you don't have to. You can just use it as a cantrip. Mishra's Bauble, 0 mana, artifact, tap, sack. You get to look at the top card of a player's deck and then draw a card at the beginning of the next upkeep. Again, just a cantrip, essentially. Brainstone, 1 to come out, 2, tap, sack, draw 3 cards, and put 2 from your hand on top of your deck. You got Sensi's Divining Top, best card in the game, other than people wanting to put Skull Clamp up there, but Sensei's Top, come on. Oh, hey, German Skull Clamp. There we go. You know what it does? It's best 1 drop, I guess. Just won our tournament. Deal Broker, 3 mana, 2/3 construct. I have to, it's not a drafting thing. Just draw a card, then discard a card for a tap ability. So, kind of a fun little bit. I'm not going to say that again. The Great Door, tap to draw a card, discard a card. Once it transforms, it taps to add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. So it gives you a lot of mana potentially once you transform it. Sky Scanner, 1/1 flyer that ETBs and draw a card. Filigree Familiar, 3 mana. ETBs, you gain 2 life. If it dies, you get to draw a card. There's some sacking stuff, so it works. Circuit Mender, same thing. ETBs, gain 2 life. When it dies, draw a card. Sword of Fire and Ice, pro red, pro blue, +2/+2. If it deals damage, deal 2 damage to any target and draw a card. Zenith Chronicler, 3/1. Whenever a player casts their first multicolored spell each turn, each other player draws a card. I don't always like helping other people out. I don't have any benefit to that. I might cut that right off the bat. I don't like it. I don't like it when I help other people draw unless there's a reason for it. You know what I mean? You got Conch Horn, 2 to come out, 1, tap, sack, draw 2 cards, then put any 1 card from your hand on top of the deck. So a little bit like a Brainstone. Ichor Wellspring, 2 mana. When it ETBs, draw a card, and if it dies or goes to graveyard, draw a card. Then you have a Harker's Journal, which is Investigator's Journal. When it ETBs, put a counter on it for each creature you control. The greatest number of creatures a player controls, and then you can pay to tap, remove a counter to draw a card, and then you can also pay to sack it and draw a card. So this should be some constant drawing. Endless Atlas, pay two, tap, draw a card, activate only if you have three or more lands with the same name. Should be enough wastes. I don't know how many wastes I'm going to have in here, so if there's less, this gets cut. Reckoner Bank Buster, 2 mana, 4/4. It's a vehicle, and then you can pay. It comes in with 3 charge counters on it. Pay 2, tap, remove a charge counter to draw a card. And then if you didn't have to remove a counter, you also get a 1/1 uh, creature and a treasure token. So it doesn't lock once the counters are gone. So if you turn this into a creature, Marvin gains the ability, pay 2, tap it. You get to draw, create a treasure, and a little token. Not a bad deal there. Let's go through that real quick. I like Reckoner. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 14, 15, 16, 17, 5, 6, 27, 28. All right. I think we like Reckoner, Endless Atlas, probably Investigator's Journal, Wellspring. I like the conch horn. I like the sword, circuit, familiar, sky scanner. I like the deal broker too, because like all these creatures that have the abilities, Marvin also gets it. So, loot, loot. Um Probably like the skull clamp, the top. Do I like um the only one I really didn't care about was like Scrabbling Claws, but we need a couple of cantrips. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's probably too many. Like Brainstone. I think right now we're gonna cut Mazatlan just because it's not like a creature. Activate only if there are 4 more permanent types among cards in your graveyard. That's gonna be tough. I can't play enchantments in here. I have 1 walker, so this is very impossible to flip. So it's just a looter. We don't need that. And if I had to cut one of these cantrips, it's probably Scrabbling Claws, just because I don't know. This one, that's free. That's free after the cast. So um this does a little something that can hit all the graveyards, and this just doesn't do enough, I don't think. So let's get rid of that. I like Guidebot. One Ring's gonna be a banger. Mystic Forge. Um, I like Farsight Mask as well. Kodotha Forge Master is a sack outlet along with an activated ability that this comes into play. I don't have to wait, so Marvin just gets to do it. Um, Whenever another non-token artifact, creature, or vehicle ETB, draw a card. I was thinking that it was all right. Whenever another non-token artifact creature, I do have colorless that aren't artifact with the Eldrazi happening. It has to be non-token. Spider might be worth cutting. Probably okay. Keep in Mind's Eye. I like Koldotha, Kozilek. Trading Post. Do I like that? Now, if I got some tapping and untapping going on, it's probably going to do some work for me. Let's cut that. It might just be a little too. Not too bad. Cut about 3, 4 there. Let's go through some of the manas. I forgot to say this, but basically if you're not watching this live or whatever, I hop it up to 1.5 speed. You'll be able to go through it quicker. You're not going to miss anything, and it'll save you some time. So, Darksteel Monolith, 8 mana artifact, indestructible. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a colorless spell you cast from your hand. Um, Kind of the only reason why I was thinking of keeping it is I have the 3 flash. cards. I might just cut all 4 of them right now, but I don't know how much I'm gonna like that, but we'll cut it right now. But Shimmermere, Skittering Cicada, and Liberator all allow you to cast artifacts, colorless spells, and colorless spells at flash speed. That would allow you to pay 0 and once per turn play something colorless at flash speed, which is anything in the deck. We'll cut all 4 of those right now, though. It's just unlikely. Um, so all right. Conduit of Ruin, 5/5. Whenever you cast Conduit of Ruin, you may search your library for a colorless creature card with converted mana cost 7 or greater, reveal it, shuffle, and put it on top. And the first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. Not a bad deal. So I kind of like that. Ugin the Ineffable there for the colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. You got Dreamstone Hedron, 6 mana, 3 taps for 3 colorless, and then you can pay 3, tap, sack it to draw 3 cards. This is kind of there, just I like the Hedron Archive and Mindstone and just that ramping up part. And so we'll see. It might just be too much for too little, but I like it at this point. Forsaken Monument, colorless creatures get +2/+2. Whenever you tap a permanent for a colorless, add an additional colorless, and whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life. And again, probably one of the better cards in the deck of a colorless deck. Kozilek's Chandler, 5 mana for a 4/4, tap to add 2 colorless mana. Yeah, likely because it kind of combos, and that's the unfortunate thing. There's going to be combo when I normally don't run any combos. So, but Solemn Simulacrum, ETB, go get a basic land and play tapped, and then when it dies, draw a card. Joyra's Familiar, historic spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. At 4 mana, I probably don't like this, honestly. I do like it with the flying, and it's nice with some of the swords that we got going on. Because I think I have either red blue, red green, green black, and blue white sword. That's kind of a lot too. Um, but I think we'll cut Joyra's Familiar at this point. Crystalline Crawler, 4 mana, 1/1, and enters with a 1/1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it, which would be 0 in this deck because colorless mana is not a color. So it gets no counters. That's why Sunburst is brutal. But remove a 1/1 counter from it, add 1 mana of any color into your mana pool, which is an ability. Activated ability is removing a 1/1 counter. And then tapping to put a 1/1 counter on Crystalline Crawler is also an activated ability. Both of those are good with Marvin, just adding more counters onto it. So that's why it's in there. Clark Clan Ironworks, sack an artifact. You get 2 colorless to your pool. Not a bad deal. Thran Dynamo, 4 mana, and you tap it to get 3 colorless. Stone Speaker Crystal, that is 4 mana. It taps for 2 colorless, and then you can sack it and exile any number of players' graveyards, draw a card. I have enough. I think I have 2 or 3 bits of artifact or graveyard hate. So this is probably okay to get rid of at this bit. Hedron Archive taps for 2 colorless mana, and you can pay 2, tap, sack, and draw 2 cards from it. It's not a bad deal. Expedition Map, pay 2, tap, sack, search your library for a land card, reveal it, and put it in your hand. I mean, you're going to have a lot of non-basic colorless lands in here, and so it'll find whatever you need. Mox Opal is a free ramp. Soul Ring for that ramp. Mana Vault taps for 3. You got some untappers in here. That's what it's there for. Wayfarer's Bauble, 2, tap, sack, go get a basic land and to play tapped. Feast and Famine, Sword of Feast and Famine, pro green and black. When it deals damage, that player discards a card and you get to untap all your lands. I love this card. It feels like an extra turn to me all the time whenever it hits. Basalt Monolith, 3 to come down, taps to add 3 colorless, and you can pay 3 to untap Basalt Monolith. So it's not a bad deal. Warren Power Stone, ETB's tapped, gets you 2 colorless. It's old school. That's why I like it. But it doesn't do much beyond that. Sonic Screwdriver, 3 mana, gets you any color, but also Pay 1, tap, untap another target artifact. Pay 2 to tap, scry 1. Pay 3 to tap. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. So it's doing plenty of work in there with what you got. Victory chimes, untap during each other player's untap step. Taps to give you a colorless. In this deck, I think it'll do some work. Cloud Key. When it ETBs, you can choose artifact, creature, enchantment, instant, or sorcery. Spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. It'd either be artifact or creature. Not entirely sure which would be. Just depends on how many Eldrazi are left over. We didn't go with any big Eldrazi in the deck just because I wanted to feel more Marvin-y rather than over the top Eldrazi. Burnished Heart. Pay 3, sack it, search your deck for 2 basics, put them into play tapped. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast with Foundry Inspector. Not a bad deal. Pilgrim's Eye is a 1/1 flyer that ETBs. You get to go get a basic land, put it into your hand. Metalworker, this is too expensive for a lot of people. I get it. But tap, remove, or reveal any number of artifact cards from your hand. Add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool for each card revealed this way. Cheat. It's basically cheating your Eldrazi out. Whatever ones I have in here. Palladium Mirror. Tap. You get 2 colorless mana. Extra planar lens. When it ETBs, remove target land you control from the game. And whenever a land with the same name as imprinted card, which would be wastes, is tapped for mana, its controller adds 1 mana of his or her. It doubles the mana. How about that? Heartstone activated abilities cost 1 less to cast for creatures. And that's for everybody. We'll have to see how many of those that I really care about and have. So we'll see. Ornithopter of Paradise, tap for any color of mana. It's a way to be. Mind Stone, tap for a colorless or pay 1, tap, sack, draw a card. Mycosynth Wellspring. When it ETBs, go to get a basic land, put it in your hand, and when it dies, do the same thing. Prized Statue. ETBs, you get a treasure, and if it dies, you get a treasure. Environmental Sciences. It is a 2 mana colorless sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then gain 2 life. We'll see how many of those like basic things. I don't think I need too many things to go get basics. Um, so I'll have to limit that. I'll have to go through Thought Vessel, taps for a colorless, no maximum hand size. Grid Monolith, 2 mana to come out, taps for 3 colorless, and then you got to pay 4 to untap it. You got Plague Mirror, 2 mana creature, 1/1, taps for a colorless, also with infect, potentially making him a threat when you're putting 1/1 counters on him. Hedron Crawler, 2 mana, 0/1, taps to create a colorless. Automated Artificer, 2 mana to come down, 1/3, tap to add a colorless, can only be spent for activated abilities or artifact spells, which is a majority of everything. Walking Atlas, tap to put 1 land from your hand into play. Then Ever-Flowing Chalice, it has multi-kicker 2, so for every 2, you get to 1 counter on there. For every counter on there, you can tap it for a colorless. There is some proliferate action going on, so I thought it was nice. Let's go through real quick and see how many basic lands things go through and get. Real quick. Hearthstone might be worth cutting. Might cut Hearthstone right off the bat, and then we'll look to see how many things we actually got to pay for. All of these rocks, if Metalworker's in play, you go Marvin, get a bunch, double it with a Metalworker, and then cast your hand. You know what I mean? That's a cost reduction. I'm gonna have to go look at that as well, I think. That gets basic. That's probably not a basic. That's a basic. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't hate the amount of that, but if I had to cut something, it would be Environmental Sciences. So let's cut that at this point. There's a ton of cards here. Probably want to have it around 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's cut that. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I think since I have the basalt monolith, the other big time ones will probably cut power stone, unfortunately, but there is the potential to go probably not infinite, just the untappers. So just being nice about it, but having it in there and can sacrifice them and stuff like that. Definitely lost count how many things are in here. Mox Opal, Expedition Map, Hedron, and I got the Hedron archives as well. So like I think the really good ones, and then these three we probably cut Thran Dynamo as well. Another old school card, Crack Ironworks, Crystalline Crawler will stay for now. Yeah, yeah. Conduit of Ruin. So these reducers, how much do I care about them? Probably not a whole ton. Let's cut Cloud Key for now. Keep the creature. Well, we'll cut them both. We'll cut them both. We got plenty of ramp. It's fine. Let's see here. Quick count done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 33. Let's get rid of Thought Vessel as well. Do I have like yeah. That's we still got too many. So that's fine. I'm gonna take a quick sip of water. All right. Let's go see the protection part. Darksteel Forge. Artifacts you control have indestructible, and that is the way you want it. Soul of New Phyrexia. Permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn, and pay 5 mana. Soul of New Phyrexia from the graveyard, exiling it. Permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. It's just giving yourself some protection, but really it doesn't add to Marvin because you either have it or you're exiling it, and 5 is a lot. I think we can cut that. 6/6 trample for 6. All right. All right. Uh Amarithan Wall. 06 defender. You can pay 2 and it gains indestructible until end of turn. Marvin would gain that. That's what that is there for. Just paying 2 to give Marvin indestructible. Masticore, at the beginning of your upkeep, discard a card or sacrifice Masticore. You can pay 2, deal a damage to target creature, pay 2, regenerate Masticore. It's here for the regenerate, but also there's the pinging that can happen, and that's where the death touch could also be nice. This will stick around for now because of the regenerate. Commander's Plate. Equipped creature gets +3/+3, has protection from each color that's not your commander's color identity. So it has protection from all colors. Um, Makes it unblockable. Eldritch Immunity. Overload for 5. Target creature you control gains protection from each color until end of turn, or all of your creatures gain indestructible. So, Welding Jar. Sacrifice it, regenerate target artifacts. Ginger Brute, 1/1 haste for 1. You can pay 1. Ginger Brute can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with haste. Marvin gaining essential unblockability and sacking it for food, I guess. But it's really just the unblockable part. Swiftfoot Boots for that protection and haste. Same thing with Lightning Greaves. Joyra's Toolbox, 1/1. pay 2, regenerate target artifact creature. Um, that's just some of that regeneration, that protection. We'll see how much mana I have just laying around though. Crashing Drawbridge, tap creatures you control, gain haste until end of turn. Then Spin Crusher, which is a fun little one, but 2 mana O2. Whenever it blocks, put a 1/1 counter on it, and then remove a 1/1 counter. And Spin Crusher is unblockable this turn, which is remove a 1/1 counter from Marvin, and it gets unblockable this turn. So that's part of it. It's not really a protection thing, but that and Gingerbread are similar in that regard. So is there anything else I wanted to get rid of? We got rid of 1 or 2 cards? 1. 1, 2, Crashing Drawbridge. I just don't know how many cards I'm just gonna be like flying out. Um, Giving it haste is nice, but I think we're gonna get rid of Crashing Drawbridge, which is wild. I love that card. I was big into that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that has to be an artifact creature at least, but Marvin gains regenerate. So 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Probably happy with those at this point. Let's go with some removal. A lot of these are going to be big ones, but Rise of the Eldrazi can't be countered. Destroy target permanent. Target player draws 4 cards. Take an extra turn after this one. Exile it. There's a lot going on in that one, but it's really, it probably really should be in the drawing. Drawing 4 cards is big. So I don't know. Spine of Itch Saw. When it ETBs, destroy target permanent, and whenever it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. I did kind of like this one. I could play it for free a lot more, but having a recyclable removal spell is not awful, especially if I have like Metalworker out. So that'll stick around for a bit. Desecrate Reality. For each opponent, exile up to 1 target permanent that player controls with an even mana value. And then it has Adamant. If at least 3 colorless mana was spent to cast a spell, which it likely would be, return a permanent card with an odd mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. There we go. All is dust. Each player sacrifices all colored permanents he or she controls. That's a board wipe for you. Ugin is also a board wipe for the colorless deck. Steel Hellkite, 6 mana, 5/5 flying. You can pay 2 to give +1/+0, and then you can pay X. Destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X, whose controller was dealt combat damages by Steel Hellkite. I mean, generally it's just 0 and destroy the treasures and tokens and clues and or 1 and get or 2 and get rid of a lot of the ramp. And then they start deciding that they need to get rid of Steel Hellkite. Trav. Yep. The drawbridge had to go. Contagion Engine. When an ETBs, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature target player controls, and then it has proliferate twice with the activated ability. That is just much more for removal, and the proliferating twice, getting a bunch of 1/1 counters on stuff should be nice. Snow Fortress, 5 mana. Oh, by the way, hey Trav. Uh, '04 counts as a wall. You can pay 1 to give it +1/+0. All of that is for Marvin, or +0/+1, or paying 3 and it deals 1 damage to target creature without flying. That is attacking you. Um, in the same regard of Endbringer, I think I'm going to cut this for now. And if I can work those Death Touch equipment into play or into the deck, then we can bring this back out and I could just start, equip it to Marvin, pay 3, kill something that's attacking. So, but for now, we'll get rid of that. Selective Obliteration, 5 mana sorcery. Each player chooses a color, then exile each permanent unless it's colorless or only the color its controller chose. So, like if they say green, they're going to probably save all of their elves or something. But if it's multicolored, it would go away. So it's a lot of work, but still, you don't have a lot of options. Eldrazi Confluence. Instant, you choose 3. You can choose the same result mode more than once, and that is target creature gets +3/-3 until end of turn, or exile target non-land permanent, and then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, or create a 1/1 scion that can be tap sack for mana. So, it's not a bad deal. There's just a limited amount of removal, so you kinda go with that. Null Elemental Blast, you can either counter or destroy target multicolored permanent or spell. Warping Whale, 2 mana instant, exile target creature with power or toughness 1 or less. Adam has the Mind Skinner now, that 10/1 that can mill everything, and so this is very relevant with that toughness 1 over there. Or counter target sorcery, or put a 1/1 Scion into play. Scion, yeah. All right. Contagion Clasp. Target creature gets -1/-1 counter, and then pay 4 tap, proliferate. And then Spatial Contortion. Target creature gets +3/-3 until end of turn. Let's take a look at that a little bit. Contagion Clasp. I think it might be a little bit of a stretch with the proliferate on the Contagion Clasp. This might be too much, but I do kinda like the blink. There's enough cards in here that are blinking, like just ETB, draw a card, or whatever, and being able to hit that would be nice. I don't know how many cards this is gonna get rid of, but it might get rid of enough for 5 mana, you know, each permanent. It's not gonna get rid of rocks, or it's just getting rid of multicolored cards. I mean, they'll get rid of a bunch of commanders. I would think that. We'll keep that around. Contagion Engine would go in over Contagion Clasp. I think that's okay. Steel Hellkite can do a lot of work, but also, giving Marvin these abilities is pretty nice as well. I guess I got 2 Ugins in here. Yeah, so getting rid of the, Ixalan's something or other. That's good to get rid of. Pop, pop, pop. That's okay. All his dust is nice. Spine of Ishsaw still works for me. For each opponent, exile something with an even mana value. And bring something back. Is 7 mana okay for that? Is that something that I want in this deck? Um, I mean, I'm putting stuff in the graveyard. We have like 2. We'll probably put the Gyre Reach Sanitarium. So probably 3 looting. Um, I think I'd weirdly, well, it has to be even. This can be anything. If I could loop this, do I like that better than that? Maybe not. Kinda sounds like a lot of work. Spell can't be countered. Destroy target permanent. Just target player draws 4 cards. Take an extra turn after this one. So is that just bop bop? I mean the stud ones for removal are for sure All's Dust, Ugin, Steel Hellkite. We might just be fat up there, and we might want to get rid of. These are the cheap ones. 1, 2, 3. Do I like that one? So this is kind of where I'm at. Maybe these are cuts. Exile target non-land permanent. So +3/-3, blink, and maybe some manas. For now, I think we cut these 2. I'm okay with that. And I with this doing that's 12. 12 mana is a lot, right? 12 mana is a lot. Keep that for now. All right. So we have ramp, draw, removal, protection out of the way. Let's go with quick reducing. These are the um, graveyard tools, scrap trawler. Whenever it or another artifact you control is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser converted mana cost. That's going to do a lot of work in this deck so far. Scarecrow, pay 4, tap, return target artifact creature card from your graveyard to play. Could also sacrifice itself to draw a card. I'm less inclined to do that, and I don't have any other scarecrows as far as I know. Um, but bringing back an artifact creature is probably going to be pretty good for now. And then Arcbound Reclaimer, remove a 1/1 counter from it to put target artifact from your yard into your onto your deck. Also has modular 2, so it comes into play with a 2/2. I like all that. Modular, I don't have all of the modular cards that can go in here. Unfortunately, there's like 3 others that I don't have. And it'd be nice to have them. It'd be nice to have more, I think. But it is what it is. But when they die, you can put 1/1 counters on Marvin or any other artifact creature in play. So let's go with the random stuff as well. We have Ugin's Mastery, 4 mana. Whenever you cast a colorless creature spell, manifest the top card of your deck. Whenever you attack with creatures total power 6 or greater, you may turn a face down creature you control face up. And that can just be anything. You know what I mean? So not a bad deal. Mere Welder. Tap, exile target artifact card from a graveyard, and it has all activated abilities of all cards exiled with it. It's a 1/4 for 3 mana. It's kind of like a secondary Marvin, like when they go into the yard, he can get rid of it. That's a good question. I have 3 artifacts that deal with the graveyard. That's probably okay. It that heralds the end. 2 mana, 2/2 Eldrazi drone. Colorless spells you cast with mana value 7 or greater cost 1 or less, and other colorless creatures you control get +1/+1. I just got rid of a bunch of those colorless spells. It's probably, and I'm not really doing the cost reduction either. So let's cut that one. Ulamog's Dreadsire, 10 mana, 10/10 Eldrazi, Vigilance, has ward one, sacrifice a permanent with mana value 1 or greater, and it has tap, create a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. Um, I really want this in here because Marvin can tap for creating a 10/10. You got a lot of untap things going on. My problem is that it's not fitting kind of anything in the deck other than that. Like it doesn't have a +1/+1 theme. It's not binking anything. It's not in the graveyard. It's not sacrificing anything. Like it's just tapping to make it 10/10, just a big fatty, and it will be good. But I think we cut this, unfortunately. We have Wandering Archaic. Whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay 2. They may pay 2. If they don't, you may copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. I mean, it's going to add to your removal. It's going to add to your ramp. It's going to do a lot of work in those areas, and your deck kind of needs it. Thopter Squadron was another kind of cool card that I thought would be nice. But when it comes into play with 3/1/1 counters on it, you can pay 1, remove a 1/1 counter to put a Thopter token into play, treat it as a 1/1 artifact creature token flying, or pay 1, sack a Thop, and then put a 1/1 counter on Thopter Squadron. Another one of those things that I was saying, this at least deals with 1/1 counters. Um, but I think it's trying too hard, and at this point, we're going to cut it. It feels too much like the Dreadsire. All right, let's go with the doubling part. Untapping, doubling, whatnot. Echoes of Eternity, 6 mana, Eldrazi enchantment. If a triggered ability of a colorless spell that you control or another colorless permanent you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Um, so, I mean, this is going to be doing a lot for you. You're not going to have a lot of triggers, but just getting 2 of whatever you're casting is going to be really nice. Um, Abstruse, Archaic, 3/4, Vigilance, Avatar. Pay 1, tap it. Copy target activated or triggered ability you control from a colorless source. You may choose new targets. It's what the deck is. You're going to be making a lot of activated abilities or triggered, and it's going to be good. Unwinding Clock, untap all artifacts you control during each other player's untap step. At the very worst, it's giving your creatures vigilance. You want this. Clock of Omens, tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, untap target artifact. I know this is probably a um kind of a combo card. I don't think I have the combos in here. So it's just one of those that you want to watch out for a little bit, but a lot of value here, I'd say. I gotta get another water. All right. Draw Scorpion, 4 mana, 3/1. Whenever it or another artifact creature is put into a graveyard from play, you may untap target artifact. Just an untapper. I don't know how many artifact creatures I have that I want dying, but it's fine for now. Manifold Key, pay 1, tap it to untap another target artifact. Yep. Voltaic Key, same thing. Rings of Bright Hearth. Whenever you activate an ability, if it isn't a mana ability, you may pay 2. If you do, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. Um, that's a good question. I don't know. I know I ask it in my head. That's a good question. You're a smart guy, Lowry. Jesus. But basically, a lot of my stuff is going to be mana abilities. Any activated ability, removing counters for free and paying 2 could be okay. How many of these do I really like the idea of? Let's break this up into copying that 5 mana to go get 4 basics. Pretty good. Metalworker is a mana ability. Um, Drawing a card is not a bad deal. Um, mana. We have a lot of mana, like I was saying. Um, that sacrifice part, that'll go get me a mana. That one too. That I think there's just enough in here that's going to do a lot of good. Drawing a card. Yeah, doubling up on some drawing card activations. Yeah. All right. I think Rings of Bright Hearth is already worth it. Just going through 25% of what I had out. Rings of Bright Hearth, 1,000 Year Elixir, giving everything haste. Yeah. And it on tap. Illusionist Bracers, whenever an ability of an equipment is activated. If it isn't a mana ability, copy this ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. That might be a little different. I mean, you may choose copy that ability. Um, hmm. I just I just see Marvin getting this on there and being like, untap him for like 3 times. That seems sweet. I don't know how, but all right. Sting, the glinting dagger. +1/+1 and has haste. At the beginning of combat, untap equipped creature. Equipped creature has first strike as long as it's blocking or blocked by a goblin or orc. 2 to come down, 2 to equip. So it's just untapping every upkeep or every turn for free, essentially, of each combat. So you could do this before yours, untap and go do it again. That's some good value. Um, Voltaic Servant. At the beginning of your end step, untap target artifact. Pay 2, 1/3. Um, might be worth getting rid of. Thornbite Staff. Whenever a creature dies, you get to untap that creature. Again, this might be really good with the um, like Death Touch in the deck, and I'm just not there. Um, I don't know how many shaman. I doubt I have a lot of shaman. There's probably a lot of constructs. So I think we can cut both of these. But weirdly enough, it just hit me that I had cut Karn before started on camera, and then I was just kind of like, you know what? Karn's going to be really good in here because I can turn my artifacts into creatures, and then Marvin can gain those abilities, whatever they may be. So you just these are the cards that already have been cut. What? Give me a hot second because I'm going to add it in there. It didn't even make it to the cutting session. I cut it before the cutting session. So we'll get rid of that. Get rid of that. And then that'll be fun. Giving, you know, some of those abilities that some of these cards have. So that'll be interesting. And Karn's always fun when you can kind of if somebody goes to rat the board, you like choose all of their best artifact ramp. And you're like, well, I'll destroy that too. So Karn's fun in that regard. Triskelion, 6 mana, 1/1, ETBs with 3 1/1 counters on it. Remove a 1/1 counter. It deals 1 damage to any target. There are some loops out there, not necessarily in this, but being able to have Marvin remove that counter to deal 1 damage might be good in this deck. I think we're good for now. Because, well, okay, there's not necessarily infinite combo, but high synergy, I guess. Phyrexian Devour, 6 mana, 1/1. If its power is 7 or greater, bury it. But Marvin doesn't gain that. But you can pay 0, remove the top card of your deck from the game, and put that many 1/1 counters on Marvin, and then where X is equal to the card's casting cost. So, like, you remove Arcbound Crusher from the top of your deck, you put 4 1/1 counters on it, and then you can remove with Triskelion, you can remove a counter to deal damage, but you could just make Pyrex or Marvin as large as you want. It's kind of like the Necrotic Ooze combo a bit going on, but it's just Marvin and Phyrexian Devour and Triskelion or whatever. Arcbound Crusher's dope. 4 mana, trample. Whenever another artifact comes into play, put a 1/1 counter on him, and then it has modular 1. So he comes in with a 1/1 counter, and whenever he dies, you can move all of the 1/1 counters to any other artifact creature. So that's definitely going to be big, and that's definitely going to get it in there. Recon Craft Theta, 4 mana, 4/4 vehicle, crew 2, flying. When it ETBs, create a 1/1 counter or create a 0/0 blue alien with a 1/1 counter on it. And then whenever Recon Craft Theta attacks, you get to proliferate. So a little bit of work, but the proliferation's nice. You get a little counter out of it. I think you're doing enough there. Animation module, 1 mana to come into play. Whenever one or more 1/1 counters are placed on a permanent you control, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. And then that other one, I'm sure it does something, but it's there for the little token creatures. The Ozolith, so when the counters on a creature die, you get to put the 1/1 counters on here and move it over to something else. Arcbound Worker, 1 mana, 1/1 that basically comes in with a 1/1 counter on it. If it dies, you get to move it over to another artifact creature with the modular. Blade of the Blood Chief, whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on equipped creature. Um, that's the important part. Lost Jit, whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, put a charge counter on the Lost Jet. You can remove a charge counter from the Lost Jet to untap target land. Target creature can't block this turn, or put a 1/1 counter on equipped creature. Um, The proliferation is kinda nice. I don't know how many I have on there, but it's cheap, 1/1 counters. It's not a bad deal. Farmstead Gleaner, 3 mana, 2/2 Scarecrow. It doesn't untap during its untap step, but that is not the part that matters. The big thing is Marvin has pay 2, untap it, put a 1/1 counter on Marvin. And so there are plenty of so this is combo. Sorry. But plenty, a handful of creatures that allow you to tap for 2 colorless, tap for 2 colorless, use that 2 colorless with his ability to untap them to put a 1/1 counter on him. He can get as big as he needs. If Triskelions in play, you can remove that 1/1 counter and then, you know, ping out the entire table. So that is part of the combo part if I so wish to go that route. Scrapyard, Recombiner, Modular 2, tap, sack, an artifact, search your library for a construct card, reveal it, and put it in your hand. Um, Ted Special there. Sword of Truth and Justice, pro blue, white, +2/+2. When it deals damage, you put a 1/1 counter on any creature you control, then proliferate. It's doing work in this deck. Cryptid Trilobite. You're gonna probably just pay 2. When it entered, put a 1/1 counter on it. Remove a 1/1 counter on it to add 2 colorless. Spend it only to activate abilities. Then you can pay 1, tap, put a 1/1 counter on Cryptic. The big thing is pay 1, tap, and then put a 1/1 counter on Marvin. Walking Ballista. It enters with X amount of 1/1 counters on it. And then you can pay 4, tap, +1/+1 counter on Walking Ballista, and then remove a 1/1 counter and deals 1 damage to target creature or player. I probably really will add the Death Touchers in here just to be able to ping ping get rid of stuff. Arcbound Stinger, 2/2 flying modular 1. And you can have those 1/1 counters put on it. If it dies, you move it over to Marvin or whatever. It works. Arcbound Ravager, sack an artifact, put a 1/1 counter on Arcbound Ravager. It has modular 1. So it's a sack outlet. It gets bigger. You can sacrifice itself to move that stuff over to Marvin, get some stuff going. Mecha Godzilla Battle Fortress, which is really Hangerback Walker. Pay 1, tap, put a 1/1 counter on it. You get that ability from Marvin, but whenever 1/1, if Hangerback Walker dies, for as many 1/1 counters are on it, you get that many Thopters. Not a bad card overall. Steel Overseer, put a 1/1 counter, tap, put a 1/1 counter on each artifact creature you control. Amarath, Ghostfire Initiate, XX to come out. Comes in with X 1/1 counters on it. Whenever you put 1 or more 1/1 counters on another colorless creature you control, put a 1/1 counter on Amarith. I can't talk with a lisp. Omarthis? Omarthis? That sounds better. Okay. And then whenever it dies, manifest a number of cards from the top of your deck equal to the number of 1/1 counters on it. Sword of Hours. Whenever equipped creature attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, roll a d12. If the result is greater than the damage dealt to the result is 12, double the number of 1/1 counters on that creature. So 2 mana come out, 2 to equip. And then Throne of Geth. The last one we'll talk about, but 2 to come down, tap, sack an artifact, proliferate everything. All right. I think we made some headway there. It took me a while though. Definitely an hour. Um let's see here. Let's probably go. We're not going to really go into card types because it's really going to be 2 or 3 instants, 2 or 3 sorceries, if that, a bunch of creatures, a bunch of artifacts, and 2 planeswalkers. So we won't do that. We'll go through and then we'll look at how many. Do that again. Mr. Parks, yes, it's missing all colors. That is what's going on. We got a Marvin. All right. So we'll go CMC order here and just kind of look at our curve of whatever's going on. I was just thinking for the XX spells, probably just paying 2, getting them down early and hoping that we have enough proliferation going on. And if you have a ton of mana, you just are able to dump it into it as well. Like that's not a huge I'm not like, no, you can't do that. It's just worst case scenario. Just get the cards onto the battlefield for the abilities for Marvin to start working. 6. Push those up a little bit. Boop, boop. There we go. 5. 3. So the big thing is there's just like kind of a lot going on, and I could probably make this cutting really easy and just drop all the 1/1 counter bullshit and be happy. But I can't be happy. That's just how life works sometimes, right? 2s, 3s, 5s, 6s, and we'll just I definitely did a decent job of getting rid of the top heavy stuff. I might not have had to do that, like getting rid of that. There's a 5 spot. We're holding on to that. 4, 4, 9. Sixes and fiveses. I don't even know if running something like Grim Monolith is worth it if I don't have infinite mana. It might just be worth cutting and then going and getting some other rampers. That might be the best case. I mean, I have some untappers. There should be plenty of value there. um 10 4 fours. Plenty in that one range. Threes. Threes and ones. All right. All right. Bobby's here. What is it? I pulled a Marvin the other day. Sweetness. Tossed him in a Jan Jensen deck. Help out my Robaran mercenaries. There we go. Hopefully that's fun for you, Bobby. That should be a good time. All right, let's look at this curve a little bit. Bop, bop. Top down is generally what I do. 3, 4, 5. 5 cards, way up there. Normally, like anything over 6, I only have like 2 to 3 in there. So, not saying that I don't want more in this deck. Just because we're colorless, we're going to be able to ramp a lot quicker. Because I like Kozilek, Darksteel Forge, All Is Dust, Ugin. The only one that's questionable for me is probably Rise of the Eldrazi. Can't be countered. Destroy target permanent. Target player draws 4 cards. Take an extra turn after this one. I mean, destroy a permanent. I don't have any Eyes of Eternity can copy this, right? No, because that's not a trigger. It's probably not worth it. Let's cut Rise of the Eldrazi. Unfortunately, maybe one day. Maybe one day I'll get to play it. But these, I think, are auto includes, those 3 at least. I think Kozilek will be a good one to have in there. That's where we're at. 6 spot. I like Dreamstone Hedron, Ugin, Conduit, Steel, Hellkite. Yeah, that's a good one. Plenty of removal there. Let's look at the other things. Echoes of Eternity. I like that one. Triskelion seems sideways. Like a lot of these, like Hangerback Walker. Maybe not. What's the other one? Ballista, walking ballista. Um, because we've already got rid of a bunch of the little pingers, but because they weren't +1/+1 dominant. And if we're gonna get rid of these, I think we're gonna get rid of a lot of the +1/+1 interaction. We would end up getting rid of the combo with Phyrexian Devour, which feels like the win con, but also since I don't play combo, feels dirty. I have 2 ways of pinging out with the counters, so I think we just stick with that. I think that's fine. I think we just play dirty a little bit. Contagion Engine, -1 counter on each creature target player controls. Pay 4, tap, proliferate. I'll probably have a little bit of infect with Inkmoth Nexus, the land that turns into infect. Then I have the one that has infect. So a little bit of a shot there. I have 2 planeswalkers, and then I have, just the +1/+1 counters, the -1/-1. Um, it's probably doing enough. All right, 5 spot. I like Farsight Mask, I think, in here quite a bit. I think it'll do some work. Mind's Eye's probably solid. Kuldotha Forge Master is gonna probably instantly go and get Darksteel Forge for me. And then after that, I don't know. Maybe some. So that's probably the problem. I don't want to tutor up the combo, but if I don't tutor it up, it's probably just gonna be bad. It's probably gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. All right. We'll cut Forge Master to make sure that I'm not reliant on the combo. How about that? Kozilek's Channeler. We can have a combo. We just don't tutor for it. How about that? That sounds good. Channeler, get me to Colorless. Forsaken Monument. That's doing a lot of work. I like it. Eldritch Immunity also going to allow you to attack in for lethal. It's going to have you saved from Blasphemous Acts, stuff like that. Selective Obliteration is going to do some work. It's going to save all your stuff. I don't know how good that'll be, but it'll be good enough. Wandering Archaic. Yeah, that's all right. That's saving spells. And then Karn, Silver Golem. Target non-creature artifact is an artifact creature with power and toughness, each equal to its casting cost until end of turn. Like, I like that part where you can just turn. Oh, what are we looking at here? Like, turn Contagion Engine into a creature, and then Marvin and Contagion Engine is doing 4/8. And unlikely. It's unlikely. I guess I have one enchantment in there. All right. Um. All right. Let's be smart about this then. Let's figure that out. I like the idea. Do I have anything that's actually worth doing for activated abilities on a? No. All right. That's already there. Um. That we can't already do. Just quick going through. That might just be an easy cut, actually. Like, I like the idea. It's just not needed, I guess. Um I don't. I mean, that's just pay 2, tap to draw a card. Same thing there. Yeah. Mm, We have some equipment, but that's not gonna work. There's no maybe the proliferate part, that's the first one, and then, like, tap and sacking. That's not something that I'm looking forward to. Alright. Yeah, I think corn gets cut. Crazy. Alright, good thing I went and found it, but, alright. Not a bad stack there. Alright, 4 spot. What do we got? Mystic Forge is gonna be really good. The One Ring for sure. Obvious, like, that's obvious, but Tawashi Guide Bot. I think we need that too. We'll end up having to see how many 1/1 counters are happening, but there seems to be some support there still. Solemn for sure. Crystalline Crawler still works. Cart Clan Ironworks is going to be plenty of sacrifice fodder out there, likely. Or am I just sacrificing already so many cards for their own benefits? Like drawing cards for the most part. That's the big one. Everything else, I'm not gonna have like clues or food laying around for the most part. Ironworks can be cut. Hedron Archive is doing some work. I like the wall. I like the wall in this game. Not in real life. Come on. Let's see here. Masticore, regenerate, do 1 damage. Yeah, I like the ping in a bit. I still like that. Eldrazi Confluence. All right, coming back to that. That's exile target non-land permanent, then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. I do like some of the blinking parts. Exile target creature gets +3/-3. I think that'll do enough work. It does enough. It does enough. Ugin's Mastery gets me some creatures. Arcbound Reclaimer should do some work. Draw Scorpion. Or another artifact creature is put into a graveyard from play. You may untap target artifact. This should probably just go in Yigra. That's probably the place for it. I think we cut this. We don't have a lot of creatures that we want to be getting rid of on purpose. Clock of Omens. That does work. On a winding clock, yeah. Doubling. Da-da-da. And proliferating. It's all right. It's okay. It's only okay. But we only have like, sword, vehicle, contagion engine, and the throne. 4 things of proliferating. All right. Sword of Forge and Frontier. That's just basic math. Network terminal, circuit mender. Yeah, just some sack outlets, some bonuses. It's in the graveyard. Scanner. Sword of Fire and Ice. I don't love these two. It probably depends. I might go through and see how many sack outlets we have. Probably have 1 or 2 in the land as well. Sword of Fire and Ice. Da-da-da-da. You know what? That's a good question, Travis. I'll count after I'm done here. But I started at 150. I've made definitely some cuts, so I'm hoping that I'm like around 110 at this point. I don't know what I am at this, truly, but I'm hoping I'm around 110 so I can end this video. I like that. Doesn't feel good. Pilgrim's Eye. Do I like that at this point? Sure. Screwdriver, Victory Chimes. There's kind of a lot at that 3 mana point, but I think I'm gonna like Victory Chimes. Am I? Am I gonna like that? We'll cut Victory Chimes. Glad I said something, huh? Burnished Heart, just a sack outlet, sacks itself, meta worker, Palladium Mirror, extraplanar lens. I think my aim is to have at least 8 wastes in here. Probably. Feast and Famine. Yep. Scarecrow. Scarecrow might be worth getting rid of. Because then I have Scrap Trawler. Mere Welder becomes a little bit better. And then also Marvin can just gain that ability as well. Scarecrow, I do like that little cantrip thing, but that's not good. It's like pay 3, maybe block, pay 1, sack, draw a card. Yeah, that's not very good. Let's sit back. Let's just be fine. But Scrap Trawler's dope. I think I like Mirror Welder in there. What's up, Bill from Woodbury? Thanks for joining. 1,000 Year Elixir. Plenty of those tapping things are going to be going. Rings of Bright Hearth. I think I like that because it's just copying any non-mana ability. There's plenty of that going on. Scrap Yard, Recombiner, Sacrifice an Artifact, Search. Well, I mean, that one's probably fine because I don't get it just has to be another Scarecrow. Or not Scarecrow. Scarecrow's right there. Has to be another construct, which is going to end up being probably not a combo enabler. So I think that's cool. I like the modular. The modular part is the one that I like. Farmstead Gleaner. That's the combo piece, so we'll keep that in there. And Truth and Justice. Yep. Conch Horn, just a little bit of a bad brainstorm. We're okay with that. Putting it on top of the deck isn't going to do much. I get basically no shuffle effects in here. I'll probably put Ash Barrens, Terramorphic Expanse, and the other one. So 3 shuffle effects on the land. Might still be okay. Ichor Wellspring, sack. Harker's Journal. I like the tapping on tapping and the potential of just drawing a bunch of cards off this stuff. I'm cool with that. Reckoner Bank Buster. I think that'll be really good. Same thing with Collector's Vault. I guess that's one thing that Karn could have changed, but Karn I think was a solid cut. There wasn't enough interaction with non. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ornithopter of Paradise. Golly, I have that in most decks that are non-green decks. Mindstone, Grim Monolith. Yep. Plague Mirror. Yep. For that infect as well. Hedron Caller. Cheap. Automated Artificer. Cheap. Walking Atlas. Yep. Everflowing Chalice. That'll be okay with the proliferating going on. Wellspring getting cards in the hand. Protection. Joyra's Toolbox. Is that good enough? That's a 1/1. Yeah, I think that's good enough. That'll be pretty good. Spin Crusher for that unblockability if we can get some counters on Marvin, but it's so specific at that point. All right, so I got Spin Crusher that'll put a 1/1 counter on him, and then Marvin has to get some 1/1 counters on him to remove. It's a little convoluted, but I think that's fun. Warping Whale and Spatial Contortion makes sense a bunch. So now the question ends up being Illusionist Bracer. I think we come back to that. And so much of what I got going on is mana that Illusionist Bracers from Marvin is not very good. We'll cut that. Sting, probably better, weirdly. Cryptolith Trilobite. Oh, well, that's a pretty good question. Now, how do I find that card again? Hmm, put it in the wrong section because it doesn't have to go on Marvin, right? The uh the equipment, illusions bracers, could go on anything. And if I just want to get more counters on something and move it over there, I'm okay with that idea. There we go. We still like cryptid trilobite, activated abilities, which would be that can untap some of the monoliths and whatnot. Walking ballista. Yeah, I think I got to get some of that death touch in here, and I think that'll really fill out the deck nicely. Arcbound Ravager. Yep, I like the Arcbound Stinger. Um, Hangerback Walker, Steel Overseer, Amarith still feels really good. Throne of Geth still feels really good. Um, Crypt creature attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it. Roll a d12. If the result is greater than the damage dealt, or the result is 12. So essentially, ugh. Okay, so let's say we get this on like a 1/1 and we attack. It's 2, and you roll a d12. More than likely, your roll is going to be more than 12. So that'll double it up to 2 counters on it to a 3. The next turn, it'll go to 4. You'll still be more than likely to get a roll higher than 4, which would put that up to 6 counters, 7, 7. And then after that, it becomes a crapshoot. But I mean, 2 hits, you got a 7, 7 from a 1, 1. Um, I ain't mad at that. But I want it to be on Marvin. Do I think Marvin can get through? I got those 2 cards. It's probably okay. It's still okay. All right, down to the 1 spot. Pip Boy 3000. This doing everything. Drawing, discarding, 1/1 counters, untapping lands. I like it. Inscribed tablet. Um, this could be any land. I don't dislike that still at this point. Cantrip, 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 brainstorm, brainstorm. Drawing a bunch of cards. Land, land to hand, ramp, 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 protection, protection. Ginger Brute's okay with that. There. All right. So I have the 5 mana sorcery version of this. Null Elemental Blast will probably still do work, so we'll keep that. Untap, untap. Blade of the Blood Chief should put plenty of counters out there. Arcbound Worker is just another modular creature out there. Ozolith for sure. Animation module, yeah. I think we probably need the last jet as well, just to be able to put 1/1 counters on stuff. All right, here's the count. How many cards we have? Too many. 3, 4, 5, 50. $50, 14. So we're at 114 cards right now. We're at hour and a half right now. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna put them into their what are they doing again? Uh, you know, why are they in the deck? We'll go through that one more time, and then we'll probably call it a night here. So it'll probably be done at about 10, 15 minutes, but we'll put that in the drawing cards. We got some removal there. We'll have this in the 1/1 counter section, and we'll just have to that's a doubling manas. Bop, bop. Hmm, 7 or greater. Is that just Kozilek at that point? It's good, but it can only go and get Kozilek. We'll cut conduit. All right. Removal. We'll call that draw. That's over there. That'll be draw, 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 draw. 1/1 counters. Doubling up. Graveyard. Pop. Like graveyard shit too. That is a draw. Loot. That. So untapping and doubling effects kind of go together because that's what they're there for. That's just kind of making more creatures. That's removal, protection. That's probably there more for counters than anything. Mana, draw. Bop, bop. Kind of anything. That's removal, protection. That's there for manas. That's there for that counter, right? Oh, that's probably just there for that counter. There. Counters. Up, up, up. Removal. Protection. Mana, mana, mana. Draw. That's probably more for the mana. We'll put that up there. And actually, since that, well, all right, that's doing everything. Counters. Proliferate's probably the counters. Doubling up. There we go. Everything. Mana, 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 mana. All right. Let's see here. So we're at 114. Let's get aggressive here. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5. 23. Let's cut 3. Force cut 3 on this. All right. Like I said, we don't have a lot of counters, but or a bunch of creatures that we want just dying. There are some though. And so Skull Clamp's probably worth having in there. Top is great. Brainstone. Draw 3 cards from your hand on top of your deck at any order. So are my brainstorm type cards worth it with no shuffle effects? Probably not. I think we'd rather just have the cantrips that we can get back, and it's less mana to do. So let's get rid of this and Conch Horn. Unless I already got rid of it. There we go. Conch Horn. I'd rather have like sacrificing creatures and just as cheap as possible cantrips. So 1, 2, Mishra's, Conjurer's Bauble, Vexing Bauble, Lantern. Yeah. Taushi Bot is good. Deal Broker is going to be solid. Those are my sack outlets. Same thing with Ichor Wellspring. Let's see here. I like probably Farsight Mask. I like Kozilek. Still a lot. Still plenty. I like it. Mind's Eye. Do I like that as much anymore? Yes. New? Because I think these are like the same. 2 mana tap, draw a card, 2 mana tap, draw a card, 2 mana tap, draw a card with different conditions. You know what I mean? Um, and then the question ends up being is Mind's Eye. Mind's Eye is pretty good, but it's more expensive, but it's less intensive. It's still intensive. So if I want to just do that, that's 2. And that's 1, 2, 3, but you're drawing 3 cards. Mm, mm, mm. That's a good question. I kinda like this because I can sacrifice it to draw a card just in case. I don't know. I should have probably picked a commander sphere, maybe. Maybe. Is that just keep Mind's Eye, Reckoner Bankbuster, get rid of these 2, so we cut 4. That's not a bad deal. So we're down to, like, 19 there, and I still like 1, 2, 3, 4. I like all of these for the most part. Um, that's a loot, that's a loot, there's another loot, and there'll be a handful of looting in here. I kinda wanna go get Commander Sphere now too. It's not a bad deal. It's kinda weird. I haven't played that one in a long time. Mind's Eye seems so old school at this point, got to be something better. I mean, okay, alright, we're talking about cutting Mind's Eye. We'll do that, that's fine. We got 2 people saying it. 1, 2, 3. I don't have any problem with old school, but you're probably right. I mean, I have enough here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20, 21, 22. Um, do I care about the creating a treasure token? It's not a creature. Um, still feels nice, but I think I could maybe cut that. Let's cut Collector's Vault. I kind of wanted to just like force play it, but I think I'm okay without it. That's the attack phase, that's damage, that's tapping and attacking. Kozilek's just a one time once you cast it. I think the cast part's gonna be relatively easy. Farsight Mask is probably gonna do some work. Echo Wellspring is a sack outlet. Familiar, Mender, both sack outlets. Sky Scanner is probably a blink thing. There's only one card that can kind of do that, but it's probably always okay. Sword of Fire and Ice, a little bit of removal, a little bit of draw. Deal Broker is a loot. That's a free. I like the free ones are really nice. So if I can tap to draw a card for free or loot for free, that's the big thing in my opinion. The One Ring is drawn for free off the top. And that's just a little cantrip, bad cantrip, fine cantrips. And those are there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 15, 19, 20, 21. I'm probably fine with that at this point. And anything that can cross over, that's fine. Let's put that there. Playing an extra mana. Bop. Tapping. Land count? I mean, I don't have a real land count at this point. I'm just trying to get down there, but right now I've been trying to have my decks have like 34, 35 lands in them. And I'll probably try and stick to that. All right. Gonna try and shorten my piles. These two, I think Wandering Archaic is just gonna be automatically good enough to be in there just because of how flexible it's gonna be in the deck. This one's just gonna be Ugin's Mastery is just creating more creatures. I don't know if I care about that. I have enough cards that might be doing that, like Hangerback Walker, Animation Module, and maybe we just it's creating colorless, not artifacts, and there's a lot more synergies with artifacts. Um, I'm not setting the top of the library, so like I'm okay with this. We can cut Ugin's Mastery, and let's look at our artifact graveyard stuff. So we got Scrap Trawler. I think this is gonna do really well with all the sacrifice cantrips and stuff like that. So I think that's a very much in with what's going on. Mere Welder, I think that's gonna be nice, and having Marvin do some of that stuff too. So if I have to discard like a Hell's or a Hellkite, tap, get rid of it, and then Marvin gains that ability anyway, that still feels pretty good, right? Has to be an artifact though. I don't hate it. I like it. I like it. Arcbound Reclaimer, likely going to be able to get more counters on it, so it's going to do some real work. Let's get rid of some of these smaller bits. All right, let's look at the untapping. Yeah, Travis, I agree. I agree with the exile part, but I think I'm more thinking like it's exiling it if it's too big and or I'm not getting it back. So like, would you rather play the Scarecrow to bring back artifact creatures back into play? That's a lot of mana too. And with the welder, Marvin can just tap and gain that ability. That's kind of my thoughts. I think it's one or the other, probably. Um, and now that you're saying it too, and I'm saying it, I might rather have Scarecrow. Um, because modular is going to be better with Scarecrow and it's going to be bad with welder. So maybe I go through and get Scarecrow. I mean, I'm not cutting a card, but I'm probably improving my chances. So we'll cut welder and then we can put Scarecrow back in the deck just to have another reanimation target. And I think it'd work better with the modular. I think that's all right. I think that's all right thinking. Let's go with untapping and doubling. Here we go. Let's bring that up. Okay, we have an untapper in Sting. We have illusionist bracers that can be on any creature. I gotta think about that. The two keys. Let's pump this up even further so I can center this a little bit better. That's a double on one creature. That's untapping as many cards. That's a doubling. And that's kind of a doubling. That's kind of a doubling as well. Singularly, 1,000 year. I like Clock of Omens and Unwinding Clock big time. I like 1,000 year key big time. I think I like Rings of Bright Hearth and Echoes, and I think I like these three big time as well. So the big question ends up being is Sting or Illusionist Bracers good enough? They're both kind of reusing or doubling up on what's going on. Or is this much more like a no? Is this like Ugin's Mastery, just more? Probably not. Like that. This can count. Oh, can't be targeted. Son of a bitch. Let me reread Ugin's Mastery. Whenever you cast a colorless creature spell. So that's a creature spell. This is any colorless spell. I'm okay. I like Echoes of Eternity still. Um Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think we cut Sting and Illusionist Bracers for now because there's plenty of untapping that's going on. That'll help with the monoliths and the One Ring, to whereas these don't. And those still help with Marvin. Like this is very specific for Marvin, probably. So I think we can cut those and be happy with these for now. I think I still need to cut down on them. This is still quite a bit of in that area. One, two, three, four, seven, eight. Um, but I think that's still good at this point. Um, let's go with protection. Let's look at that. All right, singular protection. Bop bop. That's kind of ginger brute. That's everything. Oh, nope. Let's go there. Gains regenerate, and then everything gains. Not everything, but okay. So these two seem right. They're going to do a lot of work there. Eldritch, yep. I like those. Um, this is probably the better way of putting it. This makes it hard to block. This is giving Shroud, can't target, and then indestructible and regenerate. And so essentially, this is kind of the same thing. And then do we like this artifact creature? This is just Marvin. This is just Marvin. We want Marvin around. Don't get me wrong. Welding jar. Um, hmm. Hmm. That had flying. Oh, that'd be in. Yeah. Masticore. Should probably get that on another sleeve. Reserve list, baby. Okay, so I guess the question ends up being like 4 mana. First 4 mana. Let's say Joyra's toolbox. All right. Commander's plate is in. Ginger Brute and Spin Crusher. This is at least a 1/1 counter thing. This is just not. We can cut Ginger Brute. So Wall and Masticore probably both similar in that regard. I think Welding Jar being free and still like sacrificable and bring backable. I really like Welding Jar probably more than I should. Greaves and Boots are in. We'll keep those. So the question is kind of like I'm gonna try and get the Death Touch in, and that means Masticore's likely in. I think that's the way to be. Um, then the wall is it can block for days. This can regenerate target artifact creature. So anything. A little bit more widespread. Shit. I don't know. Probably both at this point. I don't have to make a super big decision. Let's look at our removal here. Sort of Vice and Ire. Uh, Fire and Ice. There we go. Just pinpoint, a little bit of Wrath. This is probably just as good. Probably just as good and probably just as good. So these are kind of like a little bit of everything's. So I like Ugin and All His Dust are all stars in the deck. I think Steel Hellkite giving Marvin that ability is going to be really nice. I think the Proliferate is going to be really nice. I think the Protection could be really nice. Kinda leaning on these swords. I'm a little surprised by that, but having the protection, having the ability to potentially get through is gonna be really nice. And then in that regard, I think they're okay. Um, so basically, if we're looking at this a certain way, these are the bigger versions of these, kind of. Um, I think if I had to choose between these 3 or these 2, I think I'm gonna go with these 2 because multicolored just isn't gonna get everything I want to whereas, like, the targeted -3 on a creature is gonna be really nice, and Warping Whale just seems perfect in there. I don't know if so I think we're getting cutting Null Elemental Blast and Selective Obliteration for now. 3, and then we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 removal is solid. I think that's more than needed. Because Contagion Engine's still in that realm of, like, it's only kinda getting stuff. So, we got 2 big bangers. We'll keep those. Alright. +1 counters. Let's see what we got there. Get real aggressive. Should say thanks everybody for coming out and joining me. Appreciate it. Alright, so that's giving the +1/+1 counter ability, same as that. Technically, so is that. Arcbound is just something sackable. Technically also sackable, but he gives the +1 counters. So does Steel Overseer. It's probably over there. Mhm. That's just creating a token and just getting more and more. Proliferate. Proliferate. Triskelion, that's just kind of like a little bit removed with the Triskelion. And then these are swords and whatnot. Arcbound Crusher, probably. I don't know if that's necessarily sackable, but I'll have to look up and see if these are constructs because I believe. Oh, that's a beast. That's a construct. So, like, just that's a construct. I'll have to actually figure out what that's a construct. Like, actually have to figure out what a construct is for the scrapyard recombiner. I think Farmstead is big time in there. These are all giving +1/+1 counters essentially. Bop, 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 bop. So one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those all give Marvin the ability to give or receive +1/+1 counters. These ones, how much did they matter? Gleaners for sure in. Triskelions, something else. Endbringer with some untapped scarecrows, Joel. Um, if I get the some of the death touch equipment in here instead, I think Endbringer will come back in. But as of right now, I'm not gonna have Endbringer in there. Just probably more because of the +1/+1 counter thing. But if I go get the death touch thing, that does add in a lot more like damage based creatures. So like Triskelion, Walking Ballista. That's kind of what I want to have happen. So that's kind of where we're at. So +1 counters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Untap target land. Target creature can't block this turn. That part I don't know how much I care about. Put a 1/1 counter on an equipped creature. There's a little bit of um proliferating that happens. I like Sword of Hours, probably at this point. Blade of Blood Chief, Ozolith, Scrapyard Recombiner. Have I gotten rid of much? Not much. Not a +1/+1 counter. I don't know where to go. Blade of the Blood Chief. Until I get the Death Touch. I think this comes in with Death Touchers. And then you can just kind of go off and kill everything. So like equip it to Walking Ballista with Death Touch, remove one, kill something, put another counter on it. I think that works out pretty nice. I think the Lost Jit. I like the ability to untap land. I'm gonna have a lot of basic stuff there. The because that's where I think we're gonna like it. And then I'm gonna admit I don't love Recon Craft Theta. I like Truth and Justice. I like Throne of Geth, and I like the Contagion engine. I'll have to probably, probably be okay with this going away, but get like Karn's Bastion in here, a land that can proliferate. I think that'll be good. Um, oh, I like it. Good night, Travis. Animation module is going to be nice. It does create artifacts. Amaranth, Ghostfire, Initiate. It is getting late. Whew. Woo. Thanks to everybody that coming out. Almost done here. I'm going to give a little count. I got mana after this too. Holy shit. I am milking this, aren't I? This makes a bunch of creatures. Dies, manifests a number. It does not give Marvin any abilities, but it does get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Let's cut Amaranth for now. Yikes. Thanks, Bill, for the shout out there. Triskelion, Farmer Gleaner, Crusher, Worker, Stinger. I think they all stay. And I think these definitely stay at this point too. Anything that can allow Marvin to get the 1/1 counters on them, we'll keep that. And then we got the manas. Tap for a treasure. That's just tapping for mana. That's untapping. 2 targets lands. Man, this is so close to Lost Jit. Did I cut Lost Jit? I don't think I did I? No, I got rid of Blade of Blood Chief. Okay. All right. Right with that. More mana to play. We know that. It's there. Mana to play. Land in a hand. Bop, bop. Land in play. This is just kind of some more ramp. That's going to be a huge one. Land into play. Land in a hand. Into play. Kind of a doubling thing. That's untapping. Reducing. That's probably anything more than 2 I should probably bring over there. Bop. Me. I probably should have. I think I was around 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 21. 33. Let's get rid of Burnished Heart. 32. We're gonna attack and try and cut like 10 from here. I still like Bank Busters probably more draw than anything since you can do that more often. Extraplanar Lens and Forsaken Monument are going to be huge in there. Let's go find the Lost Jet. There we go. It's just a little Pip Boy, really. I think um, I like walking Atlas quite a bit. Sword of Forge and Frontier. There's probably going to be more draw than anything as well. I like it at this point. I like Pip Boy and I like the Lost Jit. I like both of those quite a bit. I mean, a 1/1 counters, untapping land, and then this is a draw on a discard, or target creature can't block this turn. Like, it's all super cheap. All has the +1/+1 counters on it. Kind of like it all. I think Ugin's probably the best cost reducer in here. A little bit of removal with that exile a top card, giving you a little bit of a creature. All right. Lands to hand are what? Um Pilgrim's Eye and Wellspring go get a basic, and Scribe Tablet goes and gets a land unless you don't, and then you get the draw a card. Expedition Map can go and get any land, which is gonna be good. But it has to go to land or to hand. So I think I like the sacrificing a little bit though. Feast and Famine. That's just so much mana. Then I think we're also probably just gonna go with 2, 3, 4. A lot of mana here too. I mean, is it worth just cutting the big ones, 1, 2, 3, and just have a more consistent view of what's going on? Yeah. I always cut these. I know they're good. I just don't want to play them. Don't want to get them stuck. Well, take that back. I can sacrifice them too if I can't untap them. So they're kind of always worthwhile. 1, 2, 3. Let's see here. So like that. Like the Soul Ring, Channeler, Archive, Metalworker, Palladium Mirror, Dreamstone Hedron. So I guess the next question is what are we cutting from these guys? I like the flying on that. Let's see here. 3 mana. Solemn. Wayfarer's Bauble, pretty similar. That's for free. It's kind of a 2-y. Bop, bop, bop. And 3. So these 3 have to do something pretty big. Mox Opal for free is pretty nice. Sacrifice fodder. I like the Mind Stone at this point. I like the Plague Mirror, automated, Hedron Crawler. So am I saying that I don't like these very much? I like the Screwdriver. Maybe Network Terminals worth cutting? Maybe do that. Didn't cut a lot from the land, did I? I do have Cryptic Trilobite in here, Joel. Thanks for asking. I did have that one because that one's really nice to just let Marvin tap to do like get a counter on him. And then the removing is also nice. 7, 8. 32 mana. I'll have to figure that out for sure. That has to get cut down probably around 20, but I don't know. 50. $45. All right. So we are down at 95. We were able to cut about 20 cards there. Not a bad deal. Hey, thanks for coming out. Thanks for joining. Again, subscribe, like, check out the Commander Smith's Mox Field. That's where I'll be posting this deck list. I'll probably get all the cards up there, but not really have a real deck list until I actually get the deck list down there. But you can check out all the cards. You can say what you would want to cut or whatever. But hopefully you enjoyed it. Oh, Christian, I'm more than willing to subject myself to a real exorcism. I've actually fallen asleep to them with earbuds. Oh, mm, mm, I'm not sure that applies here, Christian. Good luck to you, though. But hey, good luck, everybody. Good night. Have a good one. Bye.